care of our trio programs, Upward Bound, Sandra Fields. And many of you are familiar with Upward Bound, and we have 3 Upward Bound programs here. We have 2 regular Upward Bounds and an Upward Bound Math and Science. Sandra. Willis Young, our Assistant Director, our Charter High School. Would your staff please stand? Our social worker and our school counselor. We have a charter high school here on campus where our charter high school we service students 9th through 12th grade. We'd like for you also, if you have an interest, get in touch with Mr. Young. And we have a new $1 million state-of-the-art STEM laboratory. That's a technology. It's very, very nice. We just had our grand opening on February 23rd. We welcome you to come and take a tour and visit and see that we're taking our children on a global adventure all around the world. Thank you. I'm not sure if any of our other programs. We also have our Head Start. Is anyone here from Head Start? Okay, Head Start, please stand, one of our center coordinators with Head Start. And you know, we service Head Start and Early Head Start. We like to believe that we service them from the East St. Louis Center service children from diapers to diploma. And our Head Start program, we service we service children from expectant moms all the way to 5-year-olds, and we service about 1,678 children. So welcome to SIUE, again, where hope happens every single day. And on behalf of our Chancellor, Von Vandegrift, and our Provost, Ann Boyle, who could not be with us today but send their greetings, welcome, enjoy our campus, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. And I'd like to make mention of one other group that's here that represents our campus, that keeps this campus very nice, is our Lieutenant Thompson, please stand, and Sergeant Penwell.
Oh yeah, they definitely
do. And I think of any of other staff here, but anyway, give them our greetings. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Oh! Hey, mistake. Sorry. Okay, I would like to also take this opportunity to welcome someone who I just met, but who is an advocate for our children and for the children in the world. And that's Kathy Riggs. I'll tell you a little bit about Kathy. Witnessing Illinois' families struggle in the face of the state's economic crisis and embracing her lifelong conviction to impact the lives of children and families compelled Kathy Riggs to join Voices as president in September 2009. Service to the many varied needs of children and families has long marked her work in the public service sector, which included 7 years as a state legislator. As president of Voices, Ms. Riggs serves on the Illinois Early Learning Council, the Illinois Human Service Commission, the Illinois P20 Council, as co-chair of the Family, Youth, and Community Engagement Committee, and the Change Illinois Steering Committee. She also serves as chair of the Children and Families at Risk Committee of the Commission to End Hunger, and co-chair of the Illinois Youth Development Council. Her consensus-building approach to identifying and tackling public policy challenges established her reputation as a strong advocate and earned her dozens of honors. Most recently, the Illinois Campaign for Political Reform 2010 Paul Simon Service Award in recognition of her efforts in government reform. In 2007, the Early Learning Illinois Campaign Partners, including Voices for Illinois Children, named her an early learning leader for her commitment to young children's learning. Ms. Riggs holds a Master in Public Administration and a Master's in Education Guidance and Counseling degree from Roosevelt University. Join me in welcoming someone who is a humanitarian on the rights of children, Kathy Riggs.
Thank you. Well, Vanessa sure knows how to warm up the crowd. This is great. And Vanessa, thank you so much. This is an amazing facility. It's so great to be here with a room full of advocates who really want to do good things for children and families in Illinois. And I noticed as I walked into this beautiful building that you have a room that's called the Discovery Center for Little Scholars. And I thought, oh, and right across the hall, this room can be a Discovery Center for older scholars. So I think we are in for a great discussion this morning, where we will really be able to share what is going on in the state of Illinois and in your region in St. Clair County, how children are being impacted, and what we can do together, because this isn't about sharing bad news. We all get our share of that. It's about looking forward, working together, and investing in the opportunities for children now that we know lead to very positive outcomes for kids, good things for families, stronger communities, and can be cost-effective for the state. So we have a very powerful message to share. And again, I just want to thank you all for joining us this morning. I also want to be sure that I thank the people who helped get us here this morning. So, of course, Vanessa, thank you again. Great, great facility. It's wonderful to be here, and it's really exciting to hear about all the programs. I'm going to share what I learned today with all those commissions and councils that I meet with. We also want to thank our Voices team. Joan Vitale and Jessica Roberts are with us here today. They really help us in our outreach to you in the community, and we want to recognize the St. Clair County Voices Leadership Committee. You are our extension here in St. Clair County, and so if you could stand and be recognized, and we can thank you for your assistance in getting our Kids Count launch taken care of. So, leadership committee members, don't be shy. We want people to know who you are, and we definitely. We know when we're in our offices with our small team that we cannot be effective without our community-based partners. So we thank the members of the leadership committee for all that they do in keeping us informed about what's going on and for using us as a resource as you reach out to networks in your own communities. If you have an interest in participating in the leadership committee, you are always welcome. And we always want you to know that this should be a mutual benefit to you. It's not about just going to more meetings and adding another committee to the work that you do, but it should be value add to the work that you are already doing, and should engage people in stronger coalition building, because that's really where we're going to be able to build better lives. We also want to recognize all our kids' early childhood networks of St. Clair County for their support in today's discussion. And so thank you again for being here. As you will see, the theme for Voices for Illinois Children 2012 Kids Count Data Book is investing in opportunities for children now. There's urgency in this message. That's going to be hard.
I know. Do you want me to just put it back on?
Give me a minute to focus. I can adjust my old eyes on a great day. What do you think? Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about the Kids Count Data Book. We are sponsored at Voices for Illinois Children as part of the Annie E. Casey Foundation network that is nationwide, that produces annual Kids Count data books. The Annie E. Casey Foundation publishes a book on an annual basis that covers the state of the state for children in the nation, and in each state, an organization produces a data book on the particular data elements for the children in that state. We are very proud to participate in that work. You've been given a copy of the Kids Count data book, which is a statewide snapshot of how children are faring in Illinois, but it also includes data on a county basis and a regional basis. So we've also provided you a fact sheet of the figures. Oh, thank you. I get one of these. I'll be at night at home. Be sure to use that data in the work that you do. We found it to be very effective in demonstrating need, and in these challenging times, it's the data that will compel policymakers to invest in children who are most at risk and where the outcomes have the biggest impact. So what we want to do in our conversation about the state of the state for kids is to talk about every child's opportunity in relationship to wanting every child to have the same opportunities we want for our own child. This is a shared responsibility, and we want to engage more people in understanding that we all need to care about Illinois children. Many efforts are currently underway to narrow opportunity gaps, and Illinois has been a national leader. It's hard to remember that Illinois has been a national leader, but I have the opportunity often to work with my colleagues in other states, and sometimes you just have to leave Illinois to feel better about Illinois. But we can't lose sight of the fact that we have been a leader, and you have been strong partners in that work, in the areas of early childhood care and education, in the area of social and emotional learning, in after-school and youth development. Illinois was the first state to pass social and emotional learning standards, the first state to pass legislation that creates an after-school and youth development council. We have been a leader in access to health care. Illinois' All Kids program has been a model of how to effectively get every child access to quality health care. We know what works and what needs to be done to protect families' economic security. But in spite of the path that we have laid in being a leader on these issues, we know that the recession and the current budget crisis put all of these programs at great risk. And we have to remind our policymakers that these are the programs that lead to good outcomes for kids, stronger families, stronger communities, and a more financially stable state. So we can move to the data. And what this year's report tells us is that children are caught in a budget crossfire at both the state and federal levels. Policymakers are neglecting the long-term investments in children. The state budget crisis is undermining the hard-won progress in expanding opportunities for kids. And we hear the candidates talk about the economy and budget deficits, but we do not hear them talk about our children. Voices for America's Children is our national partner, and they have done a study reviewing the presidential debates that have taken place this year. And less than 2% of time spent in those debates addressed any issues that had anything to do with children. Less than 2%. We have to remind the policymakers that despite the budget challenges, we have to safeguard progress that's been achieved. We have to avoid creating deficits in children's life chances. We have to support increased opportunities for families, both in the short and long term. We have to have a vision of where we can be. What that would mean is long-term, real gains in family success and fewer children living in poverty. We would have healthier kids, better grades, stable housing, and better paying jobs, all key elements of a strong economy. So we must work together to get the public support that will drive the political will to ensure that children are provided with those opportunities to develop their full potential. This isn't just a feel-good mission. This is critical because we risk losing an entire generation of children if we don't change the path that we're headed on. And what we do when we risk an entire generation of children is jeopardize our future workforce. So these messages resonate at all levels. The business community needs to be engaged with us because they need to know their future workers and their future customers are in jeopardy because of what we're doing to undermine children's success. So the poverty statistics and data are really very, very compelling. 1 in 5 children in Illinois lives at the poverty level. And it's important to know how that poverty level is defined. You already know this, perhaps, but when we provide this figure to people who are not as engaged in serving children, they are appalled to know that 1 in 5 children live in a home, and if there's a family of 4, they are at poverty if their annual income is $17,568. No, I'm sorry, that's for a single parent household. A married couple and 2 children is defined in being in poverty at an income of $22,000. That relates to 600,000 Illinois children living in poverty, and that's an increase of 75,000 children from 2007 to 2010. We are moving in the wrong direction. In school year 2009 to 10, more than 33,000 homeless children were enrolled in the state's public school system. And we know that the racial and ethnic disparities in family income are growing wider as a result of the recession. African Americans and Latinos have the highest child poverty rates. Child poverty rates in 2009 to 10 were 41% for African Americans, 26% for Latino children, 11% for Asians, and 10% for white children. We know that children who fall into poverty during a recession fare far worse than their peers who don't. More specifically, they are less likely to have good health, they are less likely to be able to learn well in school, and that means they are less likely to have jobs that will allow them to be employable and productive members of society as adults. So all of this has a long-term impact on the state's economy, as these children who are raised in poverty encounter diminished opportunities for their futures in work and life. So again, excuse me, this affects all of us as we seek a strong economy. But we know that investing in the proven programs not only addresses the short-term needs, but also provides the path to reaching those long-term goals. A job, college, owning a home. So it's critical that we build a foundation that supports success for today and for all of our tomorrows. Single mother households are particularly challenged and face high unemployment and poverty rates. 1 in 4 Illinois children resides in a single parent household. Single mother households are hit especially hard by the recession. In 2009 to 2010, 38% of single mother households lived in poverty. And that is significantly higher than married couple households at 7%. So with less access to education and training opportunities to qualify for a living wage, women are even more limited in their ability to provide economic security for their families. The good news is that we do know what works. Some federal programs have proven very effective in alleviating child poverty during the recession. Our Fiscal Policy Center at Voices for Illinois Children estimates that in 2010, 120,000 Illinois children were moved above the poverty level by the federal Earned Income Tax Credit, and 63,000 children were lifted from poverty by the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP or food stamps program. In Illinois, we have again taken a leadership role as one of the few states to increase the EITC, the Earned Income Tax Credit, which actually incentivizes work and enables vulnerable families to keep more of their hard-earned dollars to pay for their families' living expenses. And what's significant as well about the EITC is that when a family has that money, they spend it immediately in the communities in which they live. So we know these two programs are very effective and deliver results. But the fiscal crisis is undermining our success, and we have to watch the progress of the discussions that are including food stamps, EITC, and other programs as they review the budget needs. The Illinois Child Care Assistance is one of the most effective programs in providing low-income working families with access to affordable child care services. And it helps parents, especially single mothers, keep their jobs and do better in their jobs. Most families in the Child Care Assistance Program are single mother households. Almost 170,000 children participated in fiscal year 2010. But last year, the eligibility limit for the program, which enables low-income parents to maintain their employment, was reduced from 200% to 185% of the poverty level. And the governor's budget proposal would drop eligibility further to only 150% of federal poverty. The new restriction would result in the loss of services for more than 25,000 children, potentially putting their parents' jobs in jeopardy and negatively impacting the state's economy, denying those children access to strong programs that also address their developmental needs. Also, over the past 3 fiscal years, the combination of budget cuts and delayed payments to service providers has reversed investments in preschool programs. As a result, 18,000 children have been unable to access preschool programs. 18,000 children. Research has demonstrated that early learning programs are cost-effective, necessary investments in children's academic and future success. We know, according to Professor James Heckman, who is an economics Nobel laureate award winner at the University of Chicago. Now, I want you to hear his credentials. He is an award-winning economist. He is not an educator. He is not a child development specialist. He is an economist. And his work has documented that early childhood investments yield lifelong dividends. And the benefits of these investments far outweigh their costs. Every dollar invested in young children under the age of 5 can return up to $300 in long-term benefits through better outcomes in education, in health, in economic productivity, in reduced crime. Preserving these early gains with effective education and other sustained investments throughout childhood and adolescence creates benefits for future generations. Dr. Heckman has a great website called the Heckman Equation. You can Google it. And his research is very compelling. And when he talks about reducing budget deficits, he talks about investing in children and families. So the other data that highlights the wide disparities of educational opportunities, especially among racial, ethnic, and income groups, are indicators on academic achievement and educational attainment. That includes standardized test scores, high school graduation rates, college enrollment, and college degrees awarded. One key indicator of children's social and economic well-being is graduation from high school. In 2011, the high school graduation rate in Illinois for all students was 84%. But when you break that down along race, ethnicity, and income levels, graduation rates were 89% for white students, 77% for Latino students, 74% for African American students, and 75% for students from low-income households. And low income is defined as twice the federal poverty level. One of the most compelling findings in this year's data book addresses the issue of social and emotional well-being and mental health for our youth in particular. In our Kids Count book, you'll find that the data is also accompanied by essays from experts who describe the impacts of the data in their field, in their community program, and in the services that are being offered. So you will find an essay in the book by our guest author, Scott Allen, who is the executive director of the Illinois chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics. According to Scott, 1 in 5 children in the United States suffers from a diagnosable mental disorder. Only 20 to 25% of these children receive treatment for their diagnosable disorder. Families often struggle for access to mental health services for a number of reasons. Lack of insurance coverage, financial constraints, stigma, and inability to find or get to a mental health professional within their community. And we know that early identification and treatment can reduce the burden of mental illness and its consequences for children. We know that we can intervene when a child has depressive thoughts and feelings of suicide. In a 2009 survey, which was conducted by the National Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that survey of Illinois youth indicated that 15% of Illinois high school students had seriously considered suicide in the previous 12 months. And 9% of Illinois high school students had attempted suicide 1 or more times. This is very significant information for us to know. Yet, since fiscal year 2009, state funding for school and community-based mental health services for children and adolescents has been cut by more than 20%. There is some good news on the health care coverage, however, in that Illinois has substantially expanded health insurance for children. In 2010, less than 5% of Illinois children lacked health insurance coverage. It's one of the lowest uninsured rates in the nation. Illinois has reduced significantly the racial ethnic disparities in access to health care coverage, with children of color benefiting most significantly from the All Kids program. And we also like to remind people, as discussions of Medicaid reform and programs that offer services to children and families, that All Kids is a combination of a federal Medicaid program, federal insurance program called CHIP, and then a state program that allows families to pay for health care insurance based on their ability to pay. This is a very effective program that's a one-stop shop for the families. They don't have to know which element they are eligible for. They apply, and then the services are provided, and they pay if they have the income to cover those premiums. We have to very, very carefully monitor the Medicaid reform discussions to ensure that the All Kids program, which is a very small cost in the Medicaid budget, but has a huge impact in ensuring that children have medical homes, can see a doctor for their well-being care, their preventative health care, and it prevents the costly care that is required when a medical home isn't available and families have to take their kids to emergency rooms. So we are carefully watching those conversations in Springfield. And yesterday, when the governor announced his Medicaid plan, we are pleased to report that All Kids was not included in one of the programs to be cut. We're still not out of the woods. We now know the General Assembly will be taking action and hopefully coming up with recommendations that still recognize the importance of the investment in the All Kids health insurance program. So as we review all of this very compelling data and the impacts that it has on the programs and services that we provide, and as the state faces budget shortfalls, we are always asked, and we are especially asked when we're in Springfield, how do we pay for these programs? But what we know by the research and the data is that we can't afford not to pay for these programs. We have to pay attention to the needs of children. The future economic health of the state depends on what we do now to support our children and families. We know what works. We don't ask the policymakers to give us money to figure it out. We know what works. What we're asking them to do is continue the progress that's been made, protect those programs from further cuts. They've been cut over the past 3 years, and we want them to understand that investing in children now will ensure the future well-being of everyone in the state of Illinois. We know policymakers have to make hard decisions about where to allocate limited resources, but we want them to consider a balanced approach and understand that we need appropriate reforms. There's complete recognition that the governor and the legislators are correct in looking at the pension system and the Medicaid system for reforms, reductions, and cost containments that make sense. But we also have to continue strategic spending in programs that produce good outcomes and contain costs in the long run and will pay those long-term dividends. So we invite you to join us in our call to action. We know we need to invest in opportunities for children. The Kids Count 2012 data book gives you the data that you need to inform your advocacy efforts, but you don't need to be data experts. You just need to connect the data to the work that you're doing and tell the policymakers of the programs and services and children and families that you see on a daily basis. Tell them those stories because we're telling them the data. And we want to be a resource to you anytime you need additional information or you feel like a policymaker isn't quite understanding the message you're delivering. Call on us. We want to be your partner in providing messages to policymakers that they can understand. They're overwhelmed in the challenges that they face in addressing the state's fiscal crisis. We want to be resources to them as well. We want them to be able to talk about these needs in a way that demonstrates their understanding of the need for these investments and connects these issues to their voters at home who are depending on these services and programs and are experiencing the success of these programs and services. And you are the storytellers of those successes. So please join us. We have access to the information. Kids Count Data Book is on our website, Voices for Illinois Children. The information is in your handouts. We want you to sign up for our e-alerts. We are constantly monitoring the conversations in Springfield. Our Fiscal Policy Center issues budget reports and briefs that take news that you hear to a little bit of a deeper level, but allow you to understand the complexities of the conversation. And then our calls to action will help you with the message that you can connect your personal experiences and stories to. We will be developing an electoral advocacy toolkit. This is a critical year. 1/3 of the legislators in Springfield, in the House of Representatives, 1/3 in the House are new legislators. We know that in this election year, there will be many more new faces down in Springfield. We have to be a resource to raise the bar. We do not participate in election politics, but we can participate in electoral advocacy. We want all the candidates to understand what the data tells us, what we know about programs that work, and we want to hold them accountable for making those investments in opportunities for children now. So thank you again for being here. You're very well informed now. You're informed more than your family, your friends, your coworkers, and you don't have to understand all the details of this, but talk about it. Please talk about it, because everyone in the state of Illinois needs to know why it's important for all of us to invest in opportunities for children. So thank you again for your time and attention. All right, then now I'm very excited to introduce Carol Daniel, who is an award-winning news anchor and reporter at KMOX CBS Radio, where she just celebrated 17 years. She is, yeah, how about that?
All right.
She is co-host of the Emmy-winning show on Great Day St. Louis on KMOV Channel 4, now in its 4th season. And she and her husband Patrick have been married for 18 years. I love this. They are the proud, embarrassed, exhausted, and determined parents of two sons, 16-year-old Patrick Daniel Jr. and 12-year-old Marcus Isaiah Daniel. So, Carol, thank you so much for being here.
Don't need the flash.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Did everybody get enough muffins and yes, no? Eat now, forever hold your peace. It is such an honor to be here, and I have to tell you that I'm extremely nervous, but not in that traditional way that I'm scared to speak. I am never afraid to speak. God gave me a voice a long time ago, and I learned very early in my life that He gave me something to say, and I needed to say it. And I tell my boys all the time, please, when you have the opportunity to speak, whatever you do, don't say nothing. Say something. Say something that matters. Say something that encourages. Say something that's real. Don't talk just to be talking. Plenty of words in the English language that are used for no real purpose. And I want them to be boys and men of purpose. Because I'm a woman of purpose. And that purpose might be to hit that Dillard's 40% off. That's a very real purpose. But it also is to get my sons to get the best grades possible. I have to tell you that when I was pregnant with my 16-year-old, and you have all kinds of, every woman in here who has ever carried a child, men, you have no idea, and that's okay, because we understand who you are, and that's not a knock. Carrie, that's not a knock, because I love men. I love my husband most of all, but I respect and love men. My bishop always says you shouldn't say the phrase good man, because if he's a man, if he's a real man, he is a good man.
Amen.
So if you call him a man, he better be a good man. I'm going to do that a lot this morning. I'm going to go off on a tangent and come back. And so when I was pregnant with my now 16-year-old, I was hit with the thought, in addition to having a dream that I was birthing a lizard, I had that dream. I had that dream very, very many times. I was struck with the thought that I was carrying a black man. I was struck by that thought. And that, of course, was 16 years ago. And I was struck by that thought because all of my life, and my father's 80, all of his life, being a black man in America was a pretty difficult thing. And I wondered what the world would be like for him. I had a dream as well that I was standing across the street and I could see him as a grown man. I couldn't make out his face, but I could see that he was a grown man. I didn't know what he looked like, but I just knew in the dream that he was stable and successful. That was my dream. That is my dream. And that should be our dream. I mean, I'm one of those people that goes into the store, and if I see your children acting up, I'm likely to first look at them and then maybe clear my throat and try to get their attention and try to move closer to the situation physically so that they can feel my 5'4" presence. It's only 5'4", and then I may say something. My husband told me when we moved from Cape Girardeau to St. Louis 17 years ago that, you know, you're not in Cape Girardeau anymore. You cannot do what you always do. You don't know who's packing. You don't know what's going to happen. And I said, well, okay, I will try. I will try to not say anything when I see wrong. When I see struggling in front of me, I will try, but I can't promise you a thing. And so some of you who ever read my column in the St. Louis American remember one fateful day in Walmart where my son was young enough to be in the cart, seated in the cart, and my oldest was walking. It was just the three of us, and so we were walking, and we passed two young ladies, and one of them have you ever heard anybody say, "Boy, she can curse really well"? Wow. I've been told not to curse. My voice is too proper. You don't sound right, and I'm like, okay, well that's pretty good advice, I guess. This young lady was using profanity as if she was a teacher of profanity. I mean, she was cursing up a storm in Walmart. I mean, we are in, I believe we were in the toothpaste aisle. We were in the toothbrush aisle, okay? Which I was happy that she was in that aisle. At least she's, you know,
Fresh.
she's, you know,
Fresh person.
That's a plus. That's a plus. So I did that thing I do, right? Here's my voice. I paused and I tried to make eye contact with her, and she was having none of that. And so there was a man with his son, and all that he was, I shouldn't say all, but what he was doing was sort of mumbling under his breath his dissatisfaction with what she was doing. He did not talk to her. And then he got my attention and was talking to me. And he was saying basically, you know, I can't believe that. It was a shame. That's awful. How can she be? And I'm like, well, she's standing right there. You could say something. You're a man. You could say something to her. But he did not. And so I thought, well, here I go. Lord help me. And so I said to her, young lady, in so many words, young lady, that's just really not appropriate. There are children here. I wish you wouldn't speak that way. Honey, she cursed me out. She talked about my shoes. She talked about my shoes. And I have to tell you, I never wore those shoes after that. I did love those shoes, but I never wore those shoes after that with your Goodwill shoes. Now, I love Goodwill. Now, they were not Goodwill shoes, but I happen to love Goodwill. You can get some good stuff at Goodwill and help people at the same time. So whatever, sister. So I said, okay. But I need you to stop cursing in the store. Management can throw you out because you're making a disturbance. But I have to tell you that as I walked away, my son said to me, my youngest said to me, we see films about people like that. And I thought, well, first of all, what films are you seeing? With someone, and I guess the quizzical look on my face, he continued to talk, and he said, I think she's on drugs. Now, he is all of 4 or 5 or 6. And I said, well, honey, I don't know if she's on drugs or not, but you don't hear me, you don't hear Daddy and I using profanity at home. We don't curse in public. I want you to behave a certain way in public. It should be the same way you behave at home. So I don't know if she's on drugs, but you know, I spoke to her because I wanted to help her. But in my spirit, I have to tell you that I had a bit of a feeling of, I felt better than her. Here I was with my kids. I'm a married woman. We're savers. We're investors. My children are being groomed. You know, you prune weeds. I'm pruning my kids. I felt like I'm doing the right thing. Who did the wrong thing by you, you poor, unfortunate child? And so the word is conviction. I felt conviction because I did try on the surface to stop her and to help her. That was my goody two-shoes moment. I'm going to help you. My children are going to see me help you. They'll do the same thing in the future. But my motives were a bit different. My feeling was a bit different. I was, in fact, judging her. I wasn't really trying to help her. I was trying to help her, but I was also judging her. And so I felt a certain amount of conviction as I continued to walk through Walmart. And I said a silent prayer, Lord, forgive me. That was just, it was almost as if, you know, my insides were twisting. I felt bad. And so as it would happen, about 15 minutes later, I turned the corner, and there she was, coming up a different aisle. And the most miraculous thing happened, that when I saw her, I just tilted my head. You know, that motherly, I understand. I'm so, you know, I was feeling a different emotion at that moment. And so was she. And so her body dropped. The tension that she had been walking around with dropped. And she walked towards me. and I just put my arms out. And she walked into my arms. Now, the woman who had just talked about my shoes was now allowing me to hold her. And she apologized to me, and I apologized to her. And I said to her that you're a beautiful young woman. You're more worthy than this. And she started to say, yes, ma'am. I understand, ma'am. I'm so sorry. And I thought, this is an amazing moment for me and for her. That someone took the time. I was just so glad that I had a second opportunity to show her compassion and to show her some love. And that she had the opportunity to apologize, to have conviction of her own. She knew she was wrong. I knew I was wrong. And so I'm still that woman that will say something. But I am a little careful. I am a little cautious. I can't run as fast as I used to. I don't know what's going to happen. But it is my responsibility to, when I see wrong or I see a struggle, as an individual, as a woman who professes to love God, to say something at that moment. That's my responsibility. Everyone in this room, this is a preaching to the choir moment, but it's our responsibility. Our challenge is to convince others in the community that it's their responsibility too. I brought this blanket. This is a Winnie the Pooh receiving blanket. It's the blanket that I brought my 16-year-old home from in the hospital, and my 12-year-old as well. My 12-year-old is trying to take this blanket because he is a Linus. He loves blankets. And I told him it is now mine. Well, I thought it was mine. No, it's mine. We're going to save it. I'll give it to you when you have your first child. But I brought this because when I brought my sons home from the hospital, my husband and I've seen this in a movie, you know, when they make sure that you have a car seat now, they make sure your child is secure, and then the nurse steps off the sidewalk and goes back into the hospital, and you are on your way, and you are on your own now. And I felt when I wrapped them up in this blanket, they showed me how to do it, and that swaddling is just so amazing. And they're just in there. Of course, it's to replicate the womb, and they feel safe, and it relaxes and calms them. We all know this. But I loved to do it because I felt like I was wrapping him and protecting him, and there was love in every stroke, and it was a way to keep him still so that he could be calm. And I loved to do it. And now I have to do it in a different way because they don't want to be wrapped by me. They you know, they're first of all, they're boys, and even though the one is 12, he's essentially a teenager. He thinks he's grown. They both think they're grown, and they will receive but a little outwardly from me. And I know that I still have to wrap them and somehow keep them still and calm so that they can go into what they have to go into every day at school and do what they're supposed to do every day. And I just have this sense today in America that we are not trying or feeling the wrapping of our children. We are not trying to keep them still. We are not trying to keep them calm. We are not putting hands of love on them in any way. Far too many people. Guess what? I'm just now starting the written remarks that I have. Don't be afraid. Can I give you that, sweetie? Look at this little baby bump right here. Oh my goodness. I was that big in 4 weeks. Some of us, we were pregnant all over our bodies. Our fingers were pregnant. That was me. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a friend. I happen to be a news anchor and a television talk show host, a columnist, a soon-to-be author, November 2012 publishing date, title yet to be determined.
All right. All right.
All right, thank you, God.
All right.
This report is called Kids Count, but based on what I've seen in my newsroom and what I've heard, I have to ask the question, is that really true? Mm-hmm. Do we as Americans, as Illinoisans, really believe that? And why don't we truly show it in all of who we are, that kids do count? being a nation that puts its children first, simply should not be some liberal agenda. It shouldn't be, as it appears, a political idea. It shouldn't even be a choice. It should emanate from the core of our being. We have in many ways become our own worst enemy, though. We're more successful than ever, but seemingly more morally bankrupt, more easily put off track. Are we the most frustrated, most angered that you've ever seen? Perhaps not, but our children are facing real trouble that only determined, focused adults can handle. It is perhaps in large part because of the recession. Sociologists say when there is less to go around, human nature's frailties begin to show. We become suspicious, unforgiving, we become more distant from each other. And this little technology, I was tweeting right before I came up, yes, I'm supposed to tweet. That's what CBS tells us to do. As news anchors, you will tweet, so it's a requirement that we tweet. This technology makes us even more distant from each other. Even though we are texting each other at a rapid pace, we are Facebooking our every moment, it doesn't make us, as we well know, any more connected than we should be. And here's the reality check. When your government is caught up in scandal after scandal, $800,000 conferences, 20 prostitutes, pictures with body parts, and that was just in the last 2 weeks. I am not going to even mention state government's inability to balance the budget, allowing it to truly worsen. When you have those very real issues, a troubled, emotionally exhausted public is going to say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. The debate is over the very role of government. It's reaching a fever pitch. As you well know, there are those who feel that many of you should not have the jobs you have. It's not the role of government, they say, to help children who are depressed. It's not the role of government. Early childhood education should not be something we fund. That's a debate. That's been a debate for decades. Why is that even a debate when we know the reality of early childhood education? Why is that even a debate? Kids don't vote. Kids don't vote. And many of the kids who don't vote, the parents don't vote. So talk of job creation and deficit spending, as was pointed out, does not include talk of funding for homeless services, because even that is a debate. Even that is a debate. As if you're homeless because you want to be, as if you're homeless because it's your fault, as if government has no role in helping the homeless to find a home. I know, by the way, there's a debate over how many homeless there really are, because some of you in government are inflating those figures for your own selfish good. That's what some in the public believe. Perhaps I've long ago lost my rose-colored glasses. I used to pride myself on being Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. My husband and some of my friends still do tease me about seeing the glasses half full rather than half empty. When they're in the midst of something, I'm the one who says, well, you know, what about this? And what about that? And they have said to me, I just want to go through the moaning process for a moment. Can you back off the glass is half full and just let me? And I understand that, but I'm not going to back off. So when I read headline after headline of charter schools closing, teenagers assaulting strangers, a boy strangles his ex-girlfriend, a senior who had 4 college offers, caller after caller to our news talk station, posting after posting after posting, and too many tweets to recount, filled with nothing short of venom. Nothing short of venom. We have an uphill battle to help those who we in this room believe deserve our help, need our help. We believe it's our responsibility to help. But there are those who are, and I will use the word again, venomous in their attitude about those who suffer, about those who need help.
I look at the boy who strangled his ex-girlfriend, and I immediately wonder, what happened to you to get you to this point? What happened to your mother? What happened to your father? What's going on with your siblings, if there are any? I've always began to wonder that right away, even with the criminal, even with the rapist. I wonder what happened to you to get you to this point, and don't we as a nation want to help others to not get to that point where you at 17 feel your only answer is to strangle your ex-girlfriend? I want to know how we stop you from getting to that point. How we help you not to become homeless in the first place. I was on my way to work 6 months ago or so, and the bus stopped at a hotel, as it is doing more and more because of the economy, homeless, living in the week-to-week hotels. And I wondered, I know the district knows, at least I hope they know, what happened to get you to that point? And what should we do, can we do, to make sure you don't get to that point again? These are only $300 glasses that I continue to drop. But despite what I see, sometimes I don't even want to read the Belvidere News Democrat online, because there are a handful of people who it seems to be their job is to post something nasty at the end. You agree, you see this too. I don't even understand. I think that all of America has an American Idol obsession, because we're all but a comment away from being famous. That's what we think. And the one way to be famous is to say something outrageous. That's where we are in this nation. I'm not going to get a national talk show host because I care about the community, because I care about my husband, because I'm endeavoring to raise my children. I'll get a talk show host if I murder one of them. I'll get a talk show host if I embezzle. I'll get a talk show if I do something crazy. If I say something completely idiotic about Mitt Romney or Barack Obama, then I'll be on the national landscape. That's what is happening. I mentioned morally bankrupt. To me, that is morally bankrupt, that we highlight the crazy. Real Housewives of whatever. That's crazy. Can I encourage you to check your television viewing habits? Because you all are in a position that you've got to maintain the glass is half full. You have to maintain real, tangible hope. And if you watch these types of shows, it will change your perception of society for the worse. If you continue to watch people get drunk, sleep around, argue, backstab, it will change you. It will change you. You will begin to see the world in a different way. And we need you to see the world in such a way that you're going to do whatever it takes to ensure that our children succeed. So I challenge you to check your television viewing habits. And if it means not, because it'll be hard to find something, because reality TV, if you do not know, it's cheap to make. That's why there's so much of it. And our thirst for it seemingly is insatiable. Our hunger is insatiable for it. So they continue to make these shows. So if you stop watching them, they won't make them. If you write in to advertisers and wonder, well, I don't know that I want to buy your product, and you think this is the kind of show, am I paying 2 cents more for your product because you advertise on this type of show? And you better believe you are. If you begin to raise your voice about what is going on television, it will change. That was one of those tangent moments. I just don't want to lose my mind, and I could. If I continue to read those postings after every story on every news site, I would begin to lose my mind. I do not want to become, and there are these, an angry reporter, an angry news anchor. Certainly have no intention of becoming a bitter woman. And I will never become a frustrated wife, I have been an exhausted mother. I'm admitting that. But I'm not going to become a suspicious citizen. I will continue to see the best in people. Because if I see the best in you, I'm going to work with you. If I see the worst in you, I'm not going to want to work with you. And that is our challenge, among our challenges today. You know what happens whenever disaster strikes? The mayor of that town will say something to the effect of, we will pull together, we will rebuild, we are tough, we support our own. What about this notion? Too many of our children have been in a type of post-disaster mode all of their lives. They're walking around a life that a tornado called poverty ripped the roof off. They've been digging through rubble looking for something of value, something to hold on to that they never had to begin with, and yet they search. We have a 12-year-old who, if we had had him first, we might just have one child. Teresa knows. He loves Teresa. Teresa over here was his Sunday school teacher, and I have told my sons when we go to church to look around at all the women they see, because all of these women are mothers, and all of these women have been given permission to snatch you up if you misbehave. So, but I have a twofold reason with that. I want them to respect authority, which is a very real challenge with my 12-year-old. But I also want them to know that there are others other than their father and their mother who love them, who want the best for them. So between the fear and the love, I think they'll do all right. I think they'll do all right. But my 12-year-old, my phone doesn't ring as much anymore. But when he first started 6th grade, it was ringing quite a bit. And I finally told the principal, can you please call my husband? Because I have to go on the air. And I mean, it's a very, and plus there were a couple of calls where I was emotionally tossed. And you can't be tearful and anchor a newscast. And I was just overwhelmed, hoping that it was just puberty, and we moved, and he had gone to the same elementary school, and when we moved, 6th grade began at a different junior high. So all of his friends from kindergarten to 5th grade, they were at the other junior high, and he was at this other junior high, and he said to us, didn't you know that I wouldn't get to go to Cariel, that I would have to go to Fulton? And the truth is that when we were looking for the house, we didn't really know, but then we knew. Yeah. We found out right away where he would go, but we hadn't thought of all that it meant, because he's a gregarious child. He doesn't need us. He could get up here right now and sing the national anthem to you. Doesn't know anybody in the room but Teresa. We thought he'll be okay, but we didn't think about puberty too. So now all the girls are wearing bras, and they're all, I'm like, what are you feeding these to my girls? They're all enormous as in height, and he is still, I'm the shortest person in all of 6th grade, mommy. So he's struggling. So here we are, upper class, and our child is acting out. This boy walked out of class one day. He was acting up. The teacher said, I'm not going to have you disrupting my class. And he said, all right, and walked out of class. Walked out. Now, I had 2 reactions. I thought, okay, well, now that's bold. But they told me he walked straight to the principal's office. He didn't walk out of the whole school. He went straight to the principal's office. I thought, okay, at least you knew where you were going to end up. Right to. But he was really, really struggling. And I said to certain support group members, we just can't lose him, because we could easily lose him. Now imagine if, a woman of fewer means,
Right.
including emotional determination.
Right.
Imagine a woman without a husband who is willing, wow, my husband is the disciplinarian. And that's what we're facing. Mm-hmm. Families without the support they need, with children who, by no fault of their own, he's not a bad child. He's not a bad child at all. He's a good child. I'm choosing to focus on the good and weed out the bad. But I can't look at him and say, you are a rotten, which are our children hearing that?
Yes.
They're absolutely hearing that. And I will say in this room of mixed ethnicities that I believe that if he did not have the principal he has, who is a young black woman, maybe things would be different. Because this is a chocolate child who walks out of class. And I full well know the statistics. Boys are suspended more, black boys suspended even more. And I told her, please don't leave at least for 2 years until he gets out of his junior high.
Amen.
Because I am of the sense that he needs who he needs right now.
Amen.
Our children need who they need right now. That's why it's now. Right now. I can't wait a year and a half and hope that he gets a better principal or a better teacher, or I can't wait. We cannot wait. We cannot wait for our children to hope they get fed. We cannot wait to hope that they get a proper home. We can't wait to hope that their parents get jobs. We cannot wait because these children are growing. They're assessing the world. A recent study says that at least for African American boys, they reach the age of 12 or 13 when their worldview shifts about what they view as fair and unfair towards them as African Americans. Their worldview shifts. Then many begin to see the world as it's going to be unfair to me because I'm black. I refuse to let my son walk into the world thinking that it's unfair to him. And I will tell you also that I refuse to let him walk into the world not knowing who he is.
That's right.
And I refuse to let him go to school and not let his teachers know I'm on the front line with you. But every parent is not going to do that.
That's right.
Cannot do that. Doesn't feel that way about education. They feel it is me against you.
Right.
And you don't respect me, and I don't even like you. So not only am I not even coming to the parent-teacher conference, I'm not checking homework, and if they get to school, fine, but if they don't, that's not my problem. Now, I go and get my hair done. I did this morning. I do apologize. I hope I look fine. I don't want to scare anybody. I do care about what I look like, but it was a pull the hair back kind of a day. So I go, the person that does my hair, she also does the hair for truancy officer in East St. Louis Public Schools. And she said it's a full-time job, obviously. They need more. They need more resources, but they don't have them. She goes to one home, and a student hasn't been. She's missed about, the days it was over. It was in double digits. And the mother, first wouldn't even answer the door. They go back, she answers the door finally after several tries, and she does not care. She said, I don't care. I do not care. She hasn't been to school, so what? I do not care. Now, is there a drug addiction? Is there alcoholism? Is there abuse? There is definite gripping poverty. There is a complete loss of hope. But what do we do for her child? What do we do for her child? Do we say, well, that's too bad. Your mother should have been a better mother. And you better believe some say that. In this great nation, are we not great enough to give every child a quality education, safe surroundings? Some say all we have to do is create extra tax breaks for Catholic schools. We need more charters. We need to give vouchers. And my favorite, well, you just need to move into a better district because that will make the district you left improve by virtue of competition. Sadly, it is because some will change the title of this report from kids count to my kids count. Or kids count who look like mine. Or kids count who live where I live. Or kids count who can count. Some would change the title of this report to kids count whose parents aren't in jail. Kids count whose parents aren't on drugs. Kids count whose parents have been able to buy a home. Kids count whose parents have jobs. This is what we face. The greatest challenge our kids face is the world of adults that are broken themselves. Now, they may not think they're broken because they think they have it going on because their kids are okay, so they don't think they're broken. But I I believe that we are all broken. Because when you fail, I fail. When you cry, I cry. That is the true meaning of compassion. How will our children thrive when the mindset among adults is, it's your mother's fault for getting pregnant and not being married? It's your father's fault for being addicted. And I clearly don't have all the answers, but I know clearly an attitudinal shift from selfishness to service is where we must start. And I know the news is not all bad. This room is full. We've never needed many to get anything done in America. We've never needed everybody to get anything done in America. We need a few determined souls. And as was mentioned by Kathy, the uninsured rate for children in Illinois, according to Kids Count, is now one of the lowest in the nation. So at least we know that our children have access to health care. And while soldiers on the battlefield, like you are, must not focus all of their attention on the enemy, they focus on their own training, they focus on their own ability, and on their determination to win, so will you. Now, I come from a military family. My father, 28 years. My 3 brothers, all retired. I like to proudly say all colonels. My husband, my brother-in-law, countless uncles. Even on my husband's side, I grew up on a military base surrounded by like-minded people. But when I went to college, and then I graduated, and I began living among civilians, I realized how few actually did so much. Everybody's not in the military. Everybody has not gone to Afghanistan. And I will say that it unnerves me. I appreciate the yellow ribbons, although many of us have found that you pay that $1, that $2, and it does not go to any veterans organization whatsoever. It goes right into somebody's pocket. I often wonder if our support of the military is somewhat false, is somewhat fake. I'm not wearing an American pin. I don't have to wear an American pin. I'm an American. I'm here. I'm not wearing any kind of pin. And I'm a little frustrated because it's a political agenda for some. As if I will say I support the military, but I'm not going to have my child go. A recruiter told me that a mother promised her son a car if he did not join. My 12-year-old wants to be a Marine. And I cannot tell you how many people have tried to convince me to convince him not to. In a nation that says it supports the military. I'm also frustrated. You didn't ask for this, but I'm giving it to you anyway because I'm standing here. I'm not sure if being a Democrat makes you less of a Christian and being a Republican makes you a complete Christian. And I have not made my way through the entire Bible yet. And I am not one of those who can quote scripture and verse. I can quote verse, but this will be somewhere in Psalms. That'll be me, somewhere in Ecclesiastes. I don't know. I can't do that. I'm not a preacher. But what I have read tells me that I am supposed to care for the poor. What I have read tells me I am supposed to encourage you. What I have read, it says I am not supposed to be a lover of money, as we are in a capitalistic society. What I have read tells me enough about how I should behave as a Christian that it would bring into question those who claim to be Christian and yet would tell you that, yeah, of course we need to cut your budget 40%. Because you've wasted that money anyway. There is a sense that some of you do what you do for the money. Now, I don't know if they've ever checked salaries in social services. I don't know I don't know where that comes from. I'm not sure the assault on even educators in this nation today. I mean, I think our foundation is very shaky. Who are we? Who do we claim to be as Americans? And I believe God created the universe, by the way, not just the United States of America. By the way, who are we as Americans that we would debate whether or not we should care for the homeless, whether or not we should put what we need to into quality education? Who are we as a nation that we would debate whether early childhood education is worthy of our money? Who are we as a nation that we would debate whether I should pay my taxes or more taxes to do what I need to do to ensure that my children, and they're all mine, survive? Who are we as a nation? In the words of one of my favorite silly movies, Bring It On. Now, for those who don't know, Bring It On was a cheerleading movie. Some of you know about a well-to-do high school cheerleader who, through redistricting, winds up in an urban school, a poorer school, and she has to navigate this new setting. Well, we are navigating a new setting. We have gone from what we feel a well-to-do nation to one that is truly struggling on all fronts. So what must we do in this new setting? I would say to you, do not let the vision die. You have a vision for St. Clair County. You have a vision for Cahokia, East St. Louis. There isn't just a vision for O'Fallon. There isn't just a vision for Belleville. There's a vision for every community in this county. You have a vision for what children who are cared for, what they look like, how they behave, what their futures look like. Do not let that vision die. What must you do in this new reality, this new setting? Do not listen to the naysayers. Yes, budgets are cut. How do you now operate? Oh, you're not going to be able to. You're going to have to do this, and you're going to have to do that. And these may be people who share your DNA. These may be because you are married to people who are not in social services, and they have no idea. They're very frustrated because they see the worry on your face. These may be people in your office who are beleaguered and have become negative. Do not listen to the naysayers. Recommit and rededicate to the very necessary cause of ensuring the success of our state's children. And the other thing to do in this new setting is to expand your sphere of influence. You may not think that you have influence, but you do. Your job is more than just the job you have. The skills you have are more than just the skills needed to do this job that you have. You're a member of a larger community. And what you say in the checkout line goes a long way. What you say in your book club goes a long way. What you say at church goes a long way. So expand your sphere of influence. And do we continue to call on lawmakers to do what's right? Absolutely. But we have to engage the public in a very new way and create new partnerships. And lastly, I want you to not grow weary in well-doing. Because it would be very easy for us right now, looking at crime, looking at budgets. I'm having to gird myself for a presidential campaign and how negative and nasty it's going to get. You know, the president ate dog when he was a child in Indonesia, and we all know that now. We all know that now. You're going to hear all kinds of ads. He grew up in Indonesia, and it was in his book. And so now that's a part of it. That's a campaign commercial. You are going to hear some things. You're going to see a campaign unfold. It will be costly. It will be everywhere you turn. And it may be enough to knock you off center. You might become a little bitter, a a little exhausted, but you have a job to do. And you cannot grow weary in well-doing. Because what you are doing is more important than a new Walmart opening up. It's more important than a new store going into the Galleria. It's more important than anything being discussed on the political trail. The most important thing we can do is to take care of our children. And you are on the battlefield. And it just might get worse before it gets better. But I'm encouraging you to never take your eyes off the prize. That you can do what must be done with fewer resources. You're creative, you're engaged, and you're determined. And just like we feel about our 12-year-old son, we are not going to lose him. And you feel that same way about the children that you serve. We are not going to lose them. Thank you very much for what you do. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Carol, that was very, very moving and energizing. I really want to thank you. Such a powerful message. I also want to follow up on Carol's message about the challenges that her son faced in just moving to a new neighborhood and a new school, and tell you about some of the other work that we do at Voices, that hopefully you will be seeing our new message as part of the Foster Kids Are Our Kids campaign. And I passed the billboard on my way in this morning, and it is very exciting to know that this message resonates with what we're talking about this morning. The new message for Foster Kids Are Our Kids is, where's the love? And you will see this message through ads, through billboards, and hopefully it will resonate with you, because what we're trying, again, to build awareness around is that we can't lose these kids. And imagine the trauma of kids who are removed from their natural families and living in the foster care system that we can all help make better by helping them see where's the love. So please watch for that. And now, before we take a really quick break, I'm going to introduce the moderator for our panel for the rest of the program, because Jan will reconvene us after 5 minutes where you can get some nourishment and take a break. We're very grateful to have Jan join us. She is the Executive Director of the Illinois Network of Child Care Resource and Referral Agencies. And all those meetings that I go to, Jan goes to. So we're very privileged to have her joining us today. And she will introduce our panel members for the discussion to follow this 5-minute break, please. Thank you.